I'm J.R. Church. Welcome to today's webcast. Before we get started with our lesson for today, I have this email. I notice your site has changed, and will we still be able to view your weekly broadcast? As a matter of fact, we got the first weekly broadcast up a couple of days ago. I think we're planning to put the second one up today. We will have it populated with our back webcast as we can. We're just still working on the website. Give us time. And I know you will. Bear with us while we finish up our new website. Gary Sturman's with me today, and we've got an article, the cover story of our April 2010 issue of Prophecy in the News magazine, on the subject of earthquakes. Are they increasing? Tell us about it, Gary.
J.R., I asked the question for a very good reason, because Jesus himself used earthquakes as a sign of the end. Reading from a news release, Jakarta, Indonesia. Today, Wednesday, a 7.7 earthquake shook Indonesia's northwest island of Sumatra early today, prompting a brief tsunami warning, sending residents rushing for higher ground. There were scattered reports of injuries, but only minor damage reported in most areas, and that's unusual because it was a 7.7. That's a large earthquake. We have seen a number of large earthquakes lately. Haiti, the coast of Chile, and most recently before this was the big one down in northern New Mexico, Baja California, which I believe came close to 8.0 on the Richter scale. J.R., the world is shaking.
And you know, I think maybe, I'm not sure, I'm not a scientist, but I'm thinking that when the axis of the earth was shifted during the Christmas tsunami, that big 9.9 earthquake in the middle of the Indian Ocean, I'm thinking that it set the earth to wobbling, which destabilized all of the tectonic plates, and it could be like a domino effect, just continues to wobble until it just goes crazy. And of course, we know that the Bible talks about an earthquake in the last days of the tribulation period that will cause the mountains to fall and the islands be found no more. And so it's entirely possible that we have reached that era, that time where everything is beginning to unravel.
Well, there is a feeling, I think a general level of knowledge in today's culture, J.R., that natural things like hurricanes, tornadoes, earthquakes, massive grass fires, whatever, have no cause. That is, they are spontaneously generated by natural geological systems. The Bible seems to take a different view. It links earthquakes with God's judgment, with God's displeasure. As a matter of fact, God once told Job, I control the weather, and here's how I do it. And he talked to Job very candidly about that. Jesus talked to the disciples. He said, you shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that ye be not troubled. For all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. For nation shall rise against nation, kingdom against kingdom, and there shall be famines, pestilences, and earthquakes in diverse places. Are we seeing earthquakes in diverse places?
Indeed, we certainly are. And it's interesting that was the last of the signs. As he said, all these are the beginning of sorrow. So here we have, in the 20th century, we saw the wars, the famines, the diseases.
Pestilences, swine flu.
Yes. And now we've come to this increase in earthquakes, beginning with that huge tsunami back on Christmas Day. What a time to start a tsunami, And it seems to have destabilized the axis of the earth. I don't know, but it's entirely possible that we are seeing the result of that continuing day after day.
We have tsunamis and earthquakes, which the scientists today are telling us actually alter the polar patterns of oscillation. The earth wobbles a little bit on its axis. And every time there is a large earthquake, a large tsunami, displacing large amounts of water, for example, it changes the polar tilt. And when that happens, think of the trillions of tons of mass that have to be shifted. I understand that the the Chilean earthquake, JR, which was an 8.0, actually caused the axis of the Earth at the North Pole to shift by 3.5 inches. Seems like a little tiny amount, but think of the energy that it took to do that, and think of what that did to the direction of the course of the tectonic plates. Could it have altered their motion in such a way that it caused fault lines to shift? Very likely.
You know, the earthquakes that have been going on in recent days, we saw 250,000 people die in Haiti. We saw 250,000 people die in the tsunami that hit the Indian Ocean. And so we're seeing more people devastated by these natural disasters. I'm not saying than ever before, but certainly in recent history.
There have been some big ones in the past. The question we ask, and by the way, if you're interested in pursuing this, in the April 2010 issue of Prophecy in the News, I've done a study using NEIC figures, National Earthquake Identification Center, in which, JR, their statistics are monumental. Believe me, it will cross your eyes to try to make sense of the statistics. But as I read them, I concluded without a doubt that earthquakes are increasing both in number and in magnitude. And I don't think there's any way to deny it.
Yeah. Fulfillment of Bible prophecy. We live in the days of the second coming of Christ. We don't know exactly when or how it's going to happen, but I can tell you that what Jesus said, wars, we think of World War I, nation rising against nation, kingdom against kingdom, we think of World War II, famine, disease, all of those things happened in the 20th century. And then as the 20th century came toward a close, in the beginning of the 21st century, earthquakes in diverse places. The earthquakes increasing. So in the order that they were given in the prophecy, the 20th century has fulfilled that. And he said all these are the beginning of sorrows. Now, that means that they have not yet got to the tribulation period. The tribulation period is yet ahead of us, but it's imminent.
I would say it this way: they are the setup for that which shall come, because we know that in the tribulation period, and read about it in the book of Revelation, there are going to be tsunamis and earthquakes of such scope that islands will be swept away, that the very face of the earth will be changed. I think that large tectonic plates are going to shift, literally shifting geography to the point that new maps will have to be drawn. Certainly a new map will have to be drawn of Israel, because when the Lord returns, JR, Mount of Olives is going to split in the middle, and there will be land masses moving. Big things are scheduled. And
Ezekiel said that there would be a river flowing from Mount Moriah down to the Dead Sea.
Yes.
And Zechariah said that it'll flow that both east and west, also down to the Mediterranean.
And in the history of Mount Moriah, and then that's where Abraham took Isaac up for the binding of Isaac before the Lord. In the history of Mount Moriah, there's never been water on top of that mountain. Yeah. They've always had to carry water up there. Well, there's coming a day when water will flow out of the top of that mountain.
So the earthquakes are important. They are devastating. They are God's judgment upon a wicked world. We have arrived at the time. And Luke called them great earthquakes. That's what we're looking at today. So I would say to you, keep looking up. Jesus has to be coming soon. I'm J.R. Church with Gary Stearman. We'll see you again tomorrow with our analysis of the news.